Dishonorable Mention is brought to you by 813area.com. 813area.com is the place to go to see where to go and what to do in all of Hillsborough County. Whether it's the best events, the newest restaurants, or where to be in Tampa Bay, 813 Area is your resource for everything happening around town. For the latest on where to be in the 813, check out 813area.com. Dishonorable Mention is now on social media. Follow us on Facebook, and we're at Dishonorable Pod on Twitter too. Next week, we'll start taking questions from Twitter because y'all have been an amazing part of this. Thank you.
All being done to deter people from wanting to come into the United States.
I think it's done to create a crisis. I don't think I don't think the idea of deterrence is an issue at all. I think they are trying to create mass panic and fear of people entering this country, and I think that's horrible. But I think that's what I think they're saying it's for deterrence, but I don't think any of these things they're doing is deterring anybody. It's just creating a bigger problem.
Well, and what else needs to happen is continuing to support programs in the three countries south of Mexico so that life can get better there. And at one point, President Trump had threatened to cut off that funding. Now, he has since rescinded that, as he is wanting to do with a lot of things, make threats and then not follow through.
It's so annoying.
But they are saying that if those three countries in the northern province don't do more to stop the flow of migrants, they are going to cut off that funding. And the proponents would tell you that the funding to create a better economy in those nations has been working. And they will tell you that that's why this wasn't as big a problem when President Obama was in office.
Oh, we're not going to talk about how I beat up a guy at Disney World?
No, let's talk about that.
Did you see the video of this weekend of the people at Disneyland, that family that beat the crap out of each other?
It was horrific.
It really was. So I didn't do that. But I mean, I was very aggressive with a gentleman that insulted my husband.
Well, the difference is that you were aggressive with someone who insulted your husband. These were family members fighting with each other.
Was it the same family?
It was a little trash bag. It was a little trash bag,
like
yeah.
two different
No,
families?
it was the same family.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the same family.
And they all got arrested and no one would talk.
And at one point, they knocked...
somebody was like laying on the ground.
Yeah, it was like this grandmother figure who was in a hovercraft or whatever you call those.
A scooter?
Yeah, you know.
No, what is that name? It's not hover around.
No, the hover around is the thing in the stairs.
Oh God.
Oh no, it might not be. That might be. No,
She really is, Grandma. What is it? It's
Whatever. They knocked her out of it, and she fell to the ground.
no, poor thing.
And then,
And
they
then the
rushed
little
over,
kids were
and
just
then they
standing
rushed
there.
over to pick her up after she lied there for like a minute.
Poor thing.
And then they went back to fighting after they got her back in the chair.
what were they
You
fighting
okay,
about?
Grandma? I don't know.
I don't know.
I did hear there was
It
a
was
false rumor
horrible.
about the Country Bear Jamboree getting shut down, and people were
Oh,
all
I
up
heard
in
about
arms.
that too. People were really upset.
My dad loves the Country Bear
My mom
Jamboree.
loves the
Speaking
Country
of
Bear Jamboree.
Raymond Gross, we'd like to give a birthday shout out to one of our favorite listeners.
Yay, Ray
Judge
Ray.
Gross.
Pouring some out for Ray Ray.
Why would
We,
they
like,
shut down
insert
the
a birthday
Country Bear
song?
Jamboree?
Because
People
they
don't
wouldn't
like
update it.
classics. People want out with the old in with the new.
If they shut down the tiki room, I don't even know what I'm going to do.
I mean, I love that jam in the tiki room.
It's
Is that the
amazing.
three
When are we
birds?
going to go around the world with the podcast, with the Dishonorable
I
Mention
mean,
podcast?
will Disney allow us to do that? I don't know. We can call them.
I know somebody who'll get it.
I know some people in Disney Social. We can ask them, but I don't know if that would. I don't know if they have any pull. I don't know if Social has any pull.
I refuse to go.
Did
to
y'all
Disney.
see that there was a rabies outbreak
Well,
right
okay,
around
no, there was a
Disney
cat
and they had a
that had
quarantine or
rabies.
something?
Had a cat that had rabies near the property. So that's. I mean, there are cats all
I mean,
over
that's
that
going to
property.
happen. But I would like to go on record of saying I refuse to go to a Disney park without UCF Kent, my favorite of all
Hey,
of our
he
fans.
could take us on all the rides in one day.
Is that the guy that did all the rides in one day?
He's done it like 5 times.
Can we
That's
do
one of
that?
his
Go with
best
him.
friends.
Are we capable of that? Do we have
I
the
am.
stamina to keep up
I
with
don't
UCF
like waiting
Kent?
in line.
I'm very aggressive, so I could. But
You're not as aggressive as I am, though. Trust me.
Wait, for our listeners, explain exactly what UCF Kent did.
He rode all. There's like 48, 49 rides, something like that. And there's
And all 4 parks.
Yeah, there's a cult following of these nerds or these like regular. I guess it's like the Disney people.
It's their passion project.
Yeah, it's their hobby. I apologize for calling
Well,
them
there's
nerds.
several categories of Disney
Kent, I'd
people.
like you to
so
remember that it's the Democrat that defended you. Go ahead.
And they go on all these rides in a single day. And and he's explained it to me before, but there's a handful of days throughout the year where the first park will open at like 7 in the morning and the last park closes at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And they go on all of these rides in a single day, and it's a challenge. And he's done it like 4 or 5 times. And they'll skip and they scout out and they do practices and all kinds of
so
stuff.
Do they get fast passes to?
Oh yeah,
make
like
this
he'll
work?
do fast passes, but he'll do like a few rides in one park and then get in his car and drive to the other one, and he'll take like snacks with him and eat in his car, and like he runs.
I'm gonna get an IV and just drag it behind me. An IV and a catheter.
You
No
mean
bathroom
he doesn't
breaks.
take the monorail?
Like if I do it, I'm gonna have to stop and eat.
Well, sometimes the
and,
monorail's
take
like
a
not as
break.
fast.
Chris is like, I sniff out some barbecue.
I'll be like, I'll catch up with y'all later.
Chris would
I'm
be
gonna do
like,
my 8 rides and a barbecue sandwich.
I just don't think that sounds fun to me, but I'll do it. I mean,
No, but
go.
and the best part is they have to take pictures on each ride, and so like he'll be middle of the afternoon on the Dumbo ride by himself, but he has to take a picture, and so it's just this middle-aged 37-year-old man with a bunch of
Watch it.
kids, and there's always like a woman just staring at him in the background, like, or like he's on the carousel by himself.
I haven't been in the Magic Kingdom in a really long time.
I love rides. I would be down with it. The only thing is, I hate the teacups. That would be the worst part for me.
Oh, I love the
Oh, yeah,
teacups.
yeah.
Those
They
are
make me
my-
wanna
get sick?
Disney. That's my favorite one.
I can't spin in circles.
Big Thunder and the. You
But
like Big
they
Thunder?
like he.
I do like that.
He
You know
says
what
that
would
they-
happen?
They go like 20 miles, like a day.
You would get on the teacups, and Chris would promise not to spin it, and then he would spin it,
And then you throw up.
and he'd make you throw up. Chris, you would do that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
He would. Because he's a cold-hearted snake in the words of Paula Abdul.
Wow, Paula Abdul reference.
Yeah.
I love
We're
Paula.
going back.
Straight up now tell me.
Hey, Paula.
Was that,
That was
before
the
or
greatest.
after the hot? That was after the hot tubs, right?
That was after the hot tubs. But
Paula Abdul was
speaking
98,
of throwbacks,
1998.
did anyone go to the New Kids on the Block?
I did. It was really fun.
Did you?
Who's your favorite?
Like,
And has it changed since you were a young person?
like my favorite new kid on the block.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was
Were
Joe.
you
and
hanging
he's
tough
amazing.
at the concert?
I was hanging tough. I was a little disappointed that Debbie and Tiffany didn't do more songs. They both, I think Tiffany did 1 song and Debbie did like 2. And I mean, she didn't sing Eternal Flame, so I was like, what the hell? Okay.
That's the Bengals song.
Not Eternal Flame. I'm sorry.
Flame.
Not
Foolish
that's
Pete.
what I mean. Yes, thank you.
Debbie Gibson expert here.
Yeah, sorry. no, I meant that. I said
Do you
other
have
thing,
the
but no.
Playboy that she was in?
I did not know she was in Playboy.
Tiffany was not Debbie Gibson.
I thought Deborah was when she was Deborah.
She might have done like something for a magazine, but I don't think it was Playboy.
I'm sure
I
if
don't
she
think it
did
was.
Playboy, I'm sure it was tasteful.
What do y'all
She's
think
so
Janine's
sweet.
go-to
She seems
song
so
was?
nice. Why would you think it wouldn't be tasteful? She's a nice person.
No, I'm saying I'm sure it was.
She seems like super sweet. She's very skitty. She is very tiny. She's a tiny
Although,
human.
if you pose in Playboy, they're not going to let you on the Hallmark channel. So I'm going to guess she didn't do it because she's got 2
okay,
Hallmark
first of all,
movies.
did you see the sequel to her?
I can't find
Oh
it.
my God.
It's not on
Okay.
demand.
I'll get it for you on DVD. I have some friends. I'll make some calls.
I would love to see
Debbie
that.
Gibson appeared in Playboy in 2005.
Let me see.
Hold on, I'm getting all the.
Shocking.
2005 seems very, very recent to me, and it's not, but it seems like it
It
was like a couple
seems
years
like
ago.
it.
We're getting old.
We really are.
I'm gonna.
Some of us are grandparents.
Picture's good or no?
There you go. I thought that was Britney Spears.
Let me see.
I'm gonna pour some out for Debbie.
She does. She is channeling kind of a Brit vibe right there. Yeah, yeah. She is channeling like the hair
This
and
is
like
dishonorable mention after dark.
yeah. It's the after party.
We are.
Yeah, I see how that
recording
works, though. When we record at night, we tend to be a little more edgy.
No. No, but the mixtape tour was really good. I thought it was really
had
well
a
done. Salt and
vision.
Pepper were really
I
good.
don't know.
Salt and Pepper were great. Naughty by Nature was great. Debbie was great.
Chris only likes salt, no pepper.
Really?
What was Naughty by Nature's? What was their go-to song?
I forget.
Back
Honestly,
in the day.
back
Naughty
in the
by
day?
Nature, OBB.
OBP.
Oh,
yeah.
You Know Me.
OBP.
You, yeah, you know
Yeah,
me.
You Know Me.
They did that one. They did. There's like 3, I think. But all the new kids look really, really good. Like they're all really well preserved, and they're all like their bodies are really great.
They
Like,
all had the right stuff?
They all have the right stuff. But if I was going on tour, I would need a carb in like months, and I would have definite.
Oh,
I'll
you gonna
be
get
giving
us
them.
sued? Don't be playing that, man.
You can play it. I got my first piece of hate mail.
Oh, you did?
I did. I was so excited.
I get hate mail every day, but not about the podcast.
Yeah, I got hate mail about the podcast. It was
Just
awesome.
about being a politician.
Yeah, it was great, but I deleted it because it was here's why, because I'm like a little bit concerned about safety, stay sexy, don't get murdered. So I
Did you
blocked
say?
the
Did you just hold on.
person.
Did you just say stay sexy, don't get murdered?
Yeah, that's the thing. Hashtag stay sexy, don't get murdered. My favorite murder.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a
All
best-selling
right.
book. They're
Got
best-selling
it.
authors, Becca. Yeah. They are actually. No, but like she messaged me on Facebook. So and they just kept getting like, I was basically like, thank you for your input, and then she sent me like another page worth of text. So I blocked her. By doing that, it deleted the hate mail. So I didn't save it before, and I wish I would have saved it.
She was texting you?
She sent me a note through Facebook Messenger, so I had to accept. Like, I definitely had to accept the message, not the friend request. But it got a little weird, so I blocked her from Facebook Messenger. And because I blocked her from Facebook Messenger, the message went away.
Well, who do y'all think would be the first dishonorable mention host to get murdered?
Not me.
I think it would pretty much probably be me.
Thanks, Karen and Georgia.
Nobody's getting murdered. I've been getting hate mail for years. We'll be fine.
What's the worst piece of hate mail you've gotten?
Yeah, what was the worst?
I think I asked something, and boy, I might have thrown that away now that I think
Or what
about it.
story have you written?
I held on
made
to it
you
for a
get
while.
The most hate mail.
No, when President Obama got elected, and I wrote about my grandmother. Someone sent me. It was like a Xerox copy of a letter that said President Obama was going to die in office, and it had a lot of racial epithets in it.
But they sent it to you, but it wasn't. It wasn't about. Were you?
No,
in
it wasn't.
Like,
It
you
wasn't
are
a
also
threat.
going to die
It
in
wasn't a
office?
threat against me. It was
Okay.
really like I thought about like calling the FBI and saying,
yeah.
Here's someone who's threatening the president. I mean, that was pretty horrific.
Yeah. Did you call anybody? 'Cause I feel like I would have.
I didn't. Maybe I should have. I don't know.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Attaboy, Hoop.
The
Hey,
one where Hoop should have called the FBI.
he's good. He survived.
When I was a legislative aide, I got a threat against the president, and I called the Capitol Police.
Yeah,
So note,
as you should.
I did something good.
Isn't it funny
And-
that in this society, the white man felt comfortable calling the police, but the black man didn't? How some things change, some things don't change.
That reminds me of a story that broke in the news this week. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Was that the one where the school grades got significantly better, or was that a different story?
No, did not remind me of that story.
Oh, I have
A deputy in the panhandle of Florida was arrested after he allegedly planted drugs on drivers during traffic stops. After a nearly year-long investigation, officials said 26-year-old Zachary Wester pulled drivers over for minor traffic infractions, planted drugs on them, and took them into custody. The former Jackson County deputy wore a body camera and doctored the footage to conceal his activity. After looking at more than 1,300 minutes of video, investigators said they discovered evidence of Wester planting the drugs. He faces felony charges of racketeering, fabricating evidence, possession of a controlled substance, official misconduct, and false imprisonment. This story shook me to the core. gracious, man. I have written columns saying that we need to be careful about how we judge law enforcement officials and that we can't label them as all bad. But this was horrific. One of the guys he planted drugs on ended up losing custody of his daughter because he was arrested and prosecuted unfairly. I mean, this was just shockingly unbelievable to me.
I feel like none of that
shockingly
surprises me.
frightening to me.
Well, it's not only is it like that horrific, but think about the cost to the taxpayers with all those arrests, all that judicial time, all those, fee. Like this is.
Yeah, I think they had to throw out 52 cases and
every-
release people.
Was it
Person-
racially motivated?
Every person that was legit that he arrested also has to go through the appeal process too. So now it gives those people.
Well, and the lawsuits
Yeah.
that are going to be coming too.
Oh yeah, but it doesn't surprise me. I feel like that's more common than we
It's
would
just
think.
horrible.
But
It's
what
just
makes
horrible.
a person? What makes a person sit there and come up with this idea? I mean, you have to work really hard to like doctor footage, acquire. I don't
You
know
have
how to
carry
acquire.
drugs on your person as a law enforcement officer
all the time.
But I
and
would.
then
I
plant
wouldn't
it
even
on
know where to
people.
get said drugs. Like, if Amazon doesn't deliver it, I'm not really sure how to procure it.
Probably like the evidence room.
Yeah,
he
probably like an
takes it
evidence
from
room,
the
or if
evidence room.
or if he pulls over someone with drugs, he'll take the drugs and he'll plant it on somebody else. It's like a shell.
Well,
Well, and something like that,
maybe.
you might have to have help too.
you might have to.
Oh, I
help
like
out.
But you know-
conspiracy theory.
the lesson here is if the officer asks, "Can I search your car?" Under no circumstances should you say yes. Even if you are certain, and I know you're certain, Chris, that there are no illegal drugs in your car, but even if you are certain, you must say no because they can plant the drugs and you could end up getting arrested.
One of the thing I watch Live PD, and one of the things that's interesting is, that is must-watch TV, especially Pasco County,
Wait, what is
because
this?
everything that happens in Pasco County on Live PD involves a gas station and some white hillbilly without a shirt
Wait,
on.
I don't know what.
Nobody in
Live
Pasco
PD
County wears a shirt on Live PD.
I don't know what live PD
Both
is.
men and women, or just men?
No, well, the
Ask
men.
me for a friend.
Okay.
The
trying to
women
get a
the
picture
women
here.
wear t-shirts without any bras on, and
That is probably an unfortunate turn of circumstance.
Explain to our listeners and to Carla.
Live PD, it's like
What
Cops,
Live PD is.
but it's on live television, and so it's on, I believe, A&E, if I'm not mistaken, either A&E or Spike TV.
and it often involves Pasco County.
And
right
there's
here.
like 5 different jurisdictions around the country.
Interesting.
And one of them is Pasco, Pasco Sheriff's Office, and. Yeah, and you follow them on their calls, and they'll go from one call to another, and then they come back to the original call, and so there's always something going on.
But it's not edited.
Correct.
Interesting.
And actually, there has been times where I think they've edited some things out. But
It's
one of the
live?
things that they do on traffic stops is they'll ask somebody if they can search their car, and if the person says no, you can't, they'll say, okay, well, I have my police dog here, so I'm going to do an external search with the dog because I suspect you have drugs inside, or I can smell marijuana or something. So they'll take the dog inside the car, which I always thought you couldn't do.
I always thought you could do that.
Or that you could take the dog on the outside.
This is clearly a time we need Ralph
unless-
the lawyer to answer our questions.
Really do need Ralph Lawyer.
or that you could have the dog on the outside, and if they alert, then you can go on the
the
inside.
dog could go in the car?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
I
so
thought the
and
dog was
there's
basically a police
always and the
officer.
dog always alerts to something on the
No,
inside.
see, I didn't think that was legal because I thought the dog was a police officer. You say, no, a cop can't go in my car. The dog is a
It
cop.
seems like it'd be illegal to me.
It seems like it would be illegal because
No,
the
but
dog is a cop.
And the case I just said wasn't. I don't believe it was in Pasco
Yeah.
County. It was somewhere else.
Nobody's
And
searching my car.
and on full disclosure, I'm a board member for the Canine Benevolence Fund for TPD. So I really love and respect our police canines, and I think they just do an amazing job. And I think they should be police officers. I'm a big advocate for that. But I also don't think they should be able to go in someone's car if they say don't do it.
But you would love Live PD.
I would.
Oh yeah.
Is it true crimey enough for me? Is it murdery
It's
enough?
not true crimey.
It's not murdery. I don't know.
But you have gotten me into some of these true crime podcasts.
Which ones do you like?
We're gonna. I started listening to Trace Evidence.
Oh yeah,
you,
Trace
you
Evans
and
is
I
good.
are gonna crack a case one day. That's one of my
I
new
smell
goals.
a spin-off.
Spinoff podcast. That'd be a first, wouldn't it?
No, we're gonna solve a dishonorable mention crime. We just gotta find one.
I
and
can
we'll
name one
solve
that
it.
you did earlier today.
True story.
That's a misdemeanor,
Sorry.
not a felony.
That's gross.
You know, there's probably people listening to this podcast and wondering why we aren't talking about President Trump's latest tweet, which he tweets all the time. People always get upset about his tweets, but this latest tweet just seemed to set off a seismic reaction about telling the congresswomen to go back to the countries where they came from and fix those first.
I mean, I thought AOC had a really great response. I mean, her response was amazing.
What was her response?
Let me look at it. Hold on. Let me look. I thought she did great. I mean, normally I'm like, you're kind
Speaking
of
of
annoying.
AOC, and not to totally
But
change the
she
subject,
did great.
I'm gonna. Did y'all see that AOC got sworn in to testify in Congress the other day, even though Chairman Cummings told her she didn't have to?
I don't know what that means, but that sounds great. Hold on. I'm
I
trying
was
to
just
find this
trying to
tweet.
change the subject, so I didn't have to talk about.
No,
Trump.
she did great. I mean, normally I'm just like, okay, whatever, lady. But she did. Like, I'm super proud of her.
Well, I mean, how about the fact that 3 of them are native-born Americans? They're all Americans, but
Right.
native-born Americans. Is Minnesota now its own country that they should go back
Apparently
to?
so. Well, he's never been to Minnesota except for
I love
campaigning.
Minnesota.
Minnesota is a beautiful place.
Minnesota
it
does
really
not get
is.
its due.
It really
I
is a
just
beautiful
like
place.
how
Some
he always
greenery,
tells
lakes.
people that they have to go back to their own country, and I'm not sure if he's ever married anybody that it was born in America.
I don't think he has. Actually, no. Tiffany's mom. She was born here. She's born in California.
The Mary Marla
Maples?
Maples?
Yeah.
Oh, she was born here.
Yeah, she was born in California, I believe. I think.
Well,
But
here's what
Marla.
interests me about it.
Yeah. The other 2 weren't, but
There's always this incredible angry reaction to something he says, okay? And to me, it's always like trying to put out a grease fire with water. It doesn't work. It just makes the fire worse.
I like that analogy.
And I saw a guy in a pickup truck in Ocala, and he had a bumper sticker that said, "Proud to hate everything, proud to be everything that liberals hate." And this is the mentality that fuels his popularity with his base.
Yeah, I guess
and it
that's why I
doesn't-
don't care.
And it
It's- I
doesn't
mean-
matter. It doesn't matter how upset we get.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if we call him racist, because we're just strengthening his base.
Well, breaking news from Twitter. Even Geraldo Rivera has condemned him for this.
I mean, he's such
So
a weird
perhaps-
guy.
But
Perhaps the tide has turned.
Could this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Could this be
No,
the tweet
No.
that sends people over the
I
edge?
don't think
thought,
so.
I thought the straw that broke the camel's back was when he bashed John McCain for not being a war hero.
That broke it for me.
That was not
I
nice.
didn't-
That was not nice
Or-
at all.
or-
That
or
was
how about
not
the time
a good thing
he
at all.
mocked the disabled reporter from the New York Times? That was a good
Or
one.
the Khan family.
Yeah.
Or how about when the recording came out about what he said when he was hanging out with the guy from
Access Hollywood.
Access Hollywood?
And
You
that
know, all of
really
those were
pushed
bad
his
enough.
career, but it didn't really do much.
I
Yeah.
really thought announcing a political campaign coming down an escalator like your Tiffany doing a mall concert in the 80s was enough to
Yeah.
But,
not be
I
taken
mean,
seriously.
And
I felt bad about that
like it's
for everyone involved.
as an elected Republican, if I have to defend every time he does something stupid or quasi-racist, it would be exhausting.
Well,
So
we
I
got
just-
tweets. People are not
so I
happy
just
that
think-
you expressed your support and that you hope he's reelected on this podcast.
Ooh, is that count as hate mail?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, I'm happy to retweet them for you if
Oh,
you'd
let
like
me read
right
what she
here, right
said.
now.
All
Let me
right.
read what AOC said. She was pretty good. She said, "The country I come from and the country we all swear to is the United States. But given how you destroyed your border with inhumane camps, all at a benefit to you and the corporations, blah, blah, blah. Here's the meat of it. You're angry because you can't conceive of an America that includes us. You rely on a frightened America for your plunder. I'm like, ooh, good use of that word, girl. You won't accept a nation that sees healthcare as a right or education as a number one priority, especially when we're the ones fighting for it. Yet here we are. But you know what's the rub of all of it? On top of not accepting an America that elected us, you cannot accept that we don't fear you either. And I'm like, burn, get it, girl. You can't accept that we will call your bluff and offer a positive vision for this country. And that's what makes you seethe. I'm like, damn, that was pretty good.
But I mean,
Get it.
You know, it's interesting though. That tweet he made arose from a dispute between
But that's the
those
point.
freshman
That's the
congresswomen
distraction.
and Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
right.
And so, if nothing else, I think the message for them is unite and put up a united front and you know, don't give this guy fodder for his tweets.
I agree.
But I think everything he does is that there is a purpose behind it.
oh, I don't.
And
Not
I
according
think
to Paul Ryan's latest book.
and I think that there's a, you know, he does something over here, so you ignore something that's going on over there. And you know, yeah, there's democratic infighting, but I think he does things to kind of stoke that.
I think
So-
that's giving him a lot of credit.
So did he make this tweet to distract us from the failed effort of ICE to go out and round up 2,000 supposedly undocumented immigrants who were going to get sent back to their home country? Was that the plan? Possibly.
I think so. I think possibly.
I mean, I haven't checked the latest
that
headlines,
past-
but I don't think this big ICE raid that was going to take place in 10 cities across the United States has really materialized.
This past week, wasn't it also revealed that Mueller's testimony was delayed in Congress?
Well, and there's-
Because I think that is what Trump's main worry is.
I don't know. Have
Maybe.
you read some of those affidavits? I hope I'm using the correct legal term that were filed
Oh, well, yeah,
about
and
him with the Epstein situation. Yikes!
But the Epstein thing isn't just. It's not just Trump that
it
would
is-
be.
This is a
worried.
truly bipartisan effort to
Yeah.
rape
Talk about
children.
that.
You know, Chris and I have actually had some really important, I think, conversations offline about this, and I
Because
think
Becca calls me every day for advice on about something or another, and
yes, especially hygiene.
That is so gross. Stop it.
Between bunk beds and hygiene.
I'm getting
Oh,
uncomfortable.
No, but in all seriousness, you know, I think Chris and I agree wholly that anyone, regardless of if they're a Democrat, a Republican, an NPA, a democratic socialist, a fascist, a whatever, that if they were involved in any form of the sexual abuse of children, we hope they all go down in a blaze of glory.
How come it's just you and Chris? Why aren't I on this party?
Well, you
You've
were
been
on
out of town.
vacation.
Yeah,
you
I'm
were
in
on
Palm
assignment.
Beach.
you've been
Not
on
like the moon.
assignment.
I was in Palm Beach on the
You've
moon.
been on
Come
assignment
on.
and getting in fights at Disney World.
That was years ago.
Okay, let's take a moment and realize that we're talking about child rape, and you're mad that we didn't call you while you were on vacation in Palm Beach. That sounds like a Donald Trump tweet. You're better than that.
That's very like stuff white people say.
But I mean, like, I don't care. I don't care if 100 Democrats go down in a blaze of glory. I hope that justice is served.
Is there evidence that could happen?
There is evidence that Democrats have been spending time and have spent time on Epstein's planes, which were notoriously, I forget what they were called. There was some horrific name for them, like jovial, joking name, basically like they were like the SS Sex Express or whatever. I'll look it up.
There were reports that Clinton was on his plane multiple times.
That's a fact.
Bill Clinton,
Signed.
and there were reports that he was on his plane without his Secret Service with him. and went down to his island.
While serving in the White House, or
No, after. I think it was after, like in the early 2000s, and also they went to Africa together on one of the trade missions. He went on Epstein's plane to Africa on a trade mission after he was president. But also there's discrepancy on the amount of times he was went on Epstein's plane.
And if the affidavit that I read earlier this week is true about Trump and Epstein, I mean, literally there was an event held with, I believe it was 28 young women of varying ages, many of whom were legally children, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And that's some bad math. And again, I'm not just like let's burn Trump down, take him down. I hope Jeffrey Epstein rats out every single one.
Yeah, well,
And
let's let justice be served.
Amen.
And
whoever
there was a report that Epstein was a member of Mar-a-Lago, and there was another report that he got kicked out of Mar-a-Lago.
I just think we deserve the truth. I think the fact that, especially in reading these reports and interviews with people that specifically young, poor girls were targeted, and just the predatory nature of it all, I hope they all
And I think
burn.
that's where, and correct me if I'm wrong.
And this is why I'm not a gun owner.
But that was where there was affidavit where a girl said that she was raped by the president, correct?
Yeah, that's when she was 13. But I mean, she was 13, and I believe her. If I could be really wrong, but I believe I read that her mom brought her there, which is even worse. But I mean, yeah.
But yeah, and she begged him to wear a condom, and he wouldn't. And his response was, she's like, "But what if you get pregnant?" And he threw a bunch of money on her because she was tied to, you know, she was restrained. And he was like, "Then you get a bleep abortion."
All right, so
That's so
just to review, for those of you who might have missed this huge story, Jeffrey Epstein indicted in the state of New York this week. Upon returning from out of the country, he faces multiple charges of sexual assault, since his arrest. More accusers have come out who were underage and said that he assaulted them, said that he used female assistants to groom them so they would be susceptible.
Sex trafficking.
Yes, he's also been charged with sex trafficking,
Child porn.
And the first sign that this could lead to others going down, the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta, who at the time was a federal prosecutor in Miami and gave what many are calling a sweetheart deal to Epstein, resigned on Friday. President Trump said that he did not force him to resign, that was his own decision, which I don't believe. I think there is some fear that this scandal could, hurt President Trump's reelection bid, and I think that's why he made Acosta resign. And the fact that he said that he didn't makes me believe that he did.
And another interesting part of this story is it's the public corruption part of public corruption unit of the FBI is the one that's handling this case.
I mean, can we talk about the fact that, this sex island that this guy had, it's not the first time you've seen a powerful person have an island for sex trafficking. So, if you look at North Fox Island in the case of that with the island in Michigan that this billionaire used to sex traffic humans and, obviously humans, but young boys. This has been done over and over and over again. So I think rather than look at just an isolated case with this Epstein guy, we need to look at it as a systemic problem where you're letting people who have money, power, and access be able to create literally their own islands for this kind of stuff. It's not like this hasn't happened before. So it really bothers me that we're talking about this again. Not we, like us, but the country is talking about this as if it's the first time anybody's ever done this. And it's just,
Well, no,
it
but
really
I think,
bothers me.
I think we're talking about it not as it's the first time, but that we are evolving as a society
I hope
and
so.
no longer willing to allow this thing to happen. Even Acosta, in a very weak defense, said the nation feels very differently about these cases than they did when I was trying to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein.
I think that's
which
just
thought
something people
was-
say when they don't want to get in trouble with
Yeah, I thought that
responsibility.
was a horrible thing to say.
And I'll be the first to say that people are very quick and like, you know, whatever opposition party starts foaming at the mouth, you know, that's the disgusting part
Yeah,
about
they don't care about
politics.
these kids. They care about what this is going to do for
Right.
them, and that bothers me.
And
that really does.
and I want to be clear, and I know I can speak for all of us that we like there's a zero tolerance. Like you cannot rape and traffic children. Like that's not a political stance. I mean, we don't need bipartisan
That's
support.
that's a common sense, common decency part of being a human with a heart stance.
But not everybody in our respective parties, you know, a lot of them would have been real happy to see Clinton burn down and real happy to see Trump burn down and less happy about seeing their own team take a hit. I'm with Carla. I want us to systematically care
shout
about
out.
this issue. I want us to realize that there are certain issues that there are just right and there is wrong. And there's only one answer here. And I hope everybody who was a player in this, and I hope it is a domino effect, I hope we start to value human life.
Yeah, I think that, and you might throw things at me, but I think that one of the big reasons why Hillary Clinton lost was how she treated women that accused Bill Clinton of assault. And one of it was rape. He was accused of rape in Arkansas.
yeah, and
And it was her, like, she
Remember that woman.
basically was the one that, you know, destroyed those women. Like, that was her job. And I, you know, and so she really, when it came time to hit Donald Trump on how he treated women, she really didn't have a leg to stand on.
Well, you know, I don't know if that's one of the reasons she lost, but you guys have heard me say this before. I have this theory that if after Bill Clinton's presidency, I think if she had divorced him in the year 2000 and then everything else had transpired in the same manner, she would have won. I think, you know, we went through this period where Bill Clinton had political capital, but I think by 2016, as we continue to evolve as a society, we began to judge him more harshly because of the way he had treated women, because he had had affairs. I think we began to see the Lewinsky affair in a much different and much more negative light. And we began to see her far more as a victim than we did in the late 1990s.
But I think it goes further, even more so than Lewinsky. I mean, there's women in Arkansas, Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick.
and that woman that accused him of rape a long time ago in Arkansas.
Juanita Broderick.
Was it Juanita Broderick?
Yeah.
I believe in her, by the way.
I believe that you are correct in some ways. I believe there's a
Like-
large proponent of women who didn't, you know, people were like, why can't you get behind this? Get behind the sisterhood. And for those reasons and some others, I do think they believe she hasn't been there just for the sisterhood. Now, Hillary Clinton has done some remarkable things legislatively and things like that for women and for children and stuff like that. But I don't think people are quick to forget. My mother of blessed memory was very angry when a lot of this stuff came out, and she did that interview, and she was basically, I'm not some stand by your man kind of lady, and basically disrespected women who chose to stay with their partners. But then in the same interview, basically eviscerated the other women.
Right.
And my mother, a feminist, somebody who you would have expected to be, I'm talking about her first presidential go round, expected to be one of the people who would have been like, yes, my mom was with Obama.
Do you think in the next election next year that Bill Clinton would have juice to be able to stump for the Democrat?
No,
he's poison.
No, that's one of the most significant changes in our political world. I think he's lost all juice, all credibility.
I don't know. I think a lot can happen in the next couple years. I think it's very volatile. And right this second, I would say no, but I don't know in a couple years. Like a lot can happen.
I think there's some very small segments of the population that still hold him in high regard and affection, but overwhelmingly, he's not who people
And
want
he's the
trotting
type
out.
of person that I don't know if he can like take us like leave the stage.
I mean, Al Gore didn't want him campaigning for him.
Yeah, and that never made sense to me.
Well,
Because if
that's
Al
why.
Gore had him campaigning for him, he would have won.
Well, maybe Al Gore has a moral compass and realized that he wasn't.
Al Gore doesn't have a moral compass.
I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and be like, no, talk to his ex-wife. She's like, buddy, no thanks. Hard pass.
He is not exciting. But anyway, so I think this is the good part of the tipping point. We're learning and becoming more aware of these atrocities and
becoming more sensitive to them. And we are hopefully, apparently, prayerfully moving to a point where we're not making the victims the guilty party. I think that's one of the biggest changes is that we're no longer, we're more willing to give women the benefit of the doubt.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, talk to me.
I don't think anything. I think that is a very optimistic and wonderful sentiment, and I wish that was true. I want that to be true, but I think that anything you see now is just people using situations for their own political gain, which makes, we were just talking about that earlier, it just makes me really upset and disheartened. And if anything, it's being used to politicize people more. And I don't think anybody...
What about the case of Bill
I don't know.
Cosby? What about the case of R. Kelly? I mean,
People still love R. Kelly.
There are accusations that have been but R. Kelly's about to go to jail.
I hope so,
I
but he's
thought
been
he was
arrested
already in
before.
jail.
No, he was on tour.
didn't. Yeah. How did that happen?
I don't even... I mean,
I mean, he's facing federal charges
I
now.
hope he goes down in burning flames.
The feds don't bring charges unless they have very strong cases.
here's
So
what
am I still allowed to listen to
No.
the remix to the
No,
Ignition
if
song?
I can't ask the guys at Jelly Rolls, hi Piano Rob, thanks for listening, to play Ignition, then you can't listen to it either.
here's what I think. I think Ernest is sensing a change in our culture. I think Carla's also correct. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's going to take the toppling of some of our most powerful leaders who have been a part of this systematic abuse, and when they're held accountable, the trickle down effect. But until then, until then, I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, the
And-
Bill Cosby one, that was a big deal. Because he was loved by everybody.
I don't know that he's not still loved
I
by
don't know
most
that.
people.
Yeah, I think
Really?
a lot of people really love him. Felicia Rashad was like, I don't understand what's going on. He's just the greatest guy ever. Raven Simone is like, I don't want to talk about it. I mean, there are people that really
Yeah, I don't know, man.
love Bill Cosby.
I sense a sea change.
I'm like, burn it down, man.
I mean, don't understand. The accusations against R. Kelly have been around for
years, decades.
at least a decade, probably longer. And they're only coming to fruition now because I feel like there's a less of a tolerance for that kind of behavior.
He's been arrested before.
I believe we're moving in that direction. I don't believe we've arrived, and I think
I
it's
would
going
agree with
to,
you.
I think so. I think you're both correct in the fact that there are changes. But I also think some of our response to these changes is so pathetic. I forget who it was. Some representative in some state refuses to meet with women.
That was in the state of Mississippi. Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
And he would not allow a female reporter to go on the campaign trail with him unless she was accompanied by a male colleague from her paper. because he quote unquote observing the Billy Graham rule, where he could not be alone with a woman and give her the opportunity to accuse him of doing something.
But I think
wrong.
that's more of what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing this when I'm having conversations with young people, is that so their response, instead of saying, let me take a reflection on how I may treat people, let me take a reflection on how socially sexism and all these things may play into rape culture and toxic masculinity, their response is, let's just not invite any women to the table. And that I'm seeing a lot.
That is tragic. And
If you're a fan of Dishonorable Mention, make sure to also check out Ralph the Lawyer podcast here on the 813 Area Podcast Network. Starring a second-generation Tampa attorney, Ralph Guido makes the law easy and accessible for people, as well as anything but boring. With a menagerie of guests and his staff, Ralph and friends talk about everything from employment issues for women to whether or not you should cooperate with the police during a DUI check. It starts about the law, but it's way more fun and interesting than a statute book. Subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
so many different ways. And I don't understand how someone could get elected if they can't trust themselves in that kind of situation. I'm not asking the guy to go to her hotel room at midnight, but if she wants to accompany you and other reporters on the campaign trail, there's nothing wrong with that. I honestly think that's a new brand of sexism that he was using against her. I don't buy any of his reasoning as to why she couldn't accompany him on the campaign trail. I thought it was ridiculous.
I agree, but I don't think it's new, but I think it's the easy response because, as Carla said, until there's true action and repercussions, this is they just, all right, well, we'll just cut you out.
Well, I mean, in Tallahassee, I do not meet alone with a female lobbyist by myself.
In your office?
In my office. Either my door stays, if it's somebody that's of my age.
I won't do that.
And unless it's somebody that I've known for years, either my door stays open or I have an intern or my aide that sits in there.
And I have that policy for my office. If anyone wants to meet with me, especially a guy, I leave that door open or I leave it cracked.
Okay, but that's completely different. You all are creating a safe space for both them and you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And we want to be clear about that. The difference is we want to do that to create a space of inclusion.
You don't tell a female who makes an appointment with you, unless you're accompanied by a man, I won't see you. Is that correct?
No.
There is a
Yeah, that's
difference. And I think we need to make sure that people kind of understand that difference and like why, I mean, kind of the intent behind that.
I would leave the door, if that's how you feel, I would leave the door open regardless of the person's gender.
Well, sometimes it's hard because sometimes I have people who work for me who are women, so they'll want to come in and talk about things that are, work related and gender related and work related that I'll have to handle. So, I mean, walls are paper thin in my office especially, but there are people that sometimes I'll need to close the door. So,
But I think generally speaking, having an open door policy, but the problem would be if you told your team in Tallahassee, anyone who's female identified who wants to make an appointment, I'm not available. That would be you not fulfilling your job and meeting with people properly.
Yeah,
you wanting the door open, I think that's professional.
yeah, I had an incident. God, this might have been years ago, where I had
before you were a grandmother, or
what are you talking about?
It's so amazing.
It's amazing. When was this? It's probably 2015, where I had a guy come into my office and shut the door to talk about something. I didn't know what to do because I'm like, I'm in the position of power here. This is my space. Why are you coming behind me and trying to even ask? So it was just a moment where I think I recognized there was an issue, you know what I mean? Like a power issue, and I didn't know quite how to handle it. And also, this is like 6 years ago. So I was also a little bit younger in my carear, and but it was like a learning moment for me, and it caused me to really sit back and I kind of replay that moment over and over in my head, not just because I have anxiety, but just because that was a moment where I wanted to actually pause and be like, did I handle that okay? Should I have asked him to open the door again? Is it like, was that just like some stupid power move? I didn't know what to do. So
No, I had a boss.
interesting.
It was like earlier in my career, and I was the marketing director for a very large company. And it was a big job. Like, I had applied for this job when I lived in Texas, and it's one of the ways that I ended up back in this area. And my boss was not a good person. And I didn't realize it, but he would have this habit of coming into my office, and he would not only close the door, but he would block the door.
I hate when people do that.
And he would oftentimes like push and try and get me to agree to do things that I did not want to do, sometimes things that were illegal. But it was just, I mean, and I had him fired, but like,
Oh, good for you.
but I was like, but I mean, it was an abusive situation, and it was really awful, and I was really young, and I didn't know. It's not that I didn't know how to handle it. I was just so taken aback at how brazen.
Yep.
And I was like, do you not like get who I am? Like, I'm not going to play this game with you. But the irony was, to get him fired, they didn't care. And this is a very large company. They didn't care that he tried to get me to do some really terrible illegal things. He didn't care that and tried to get me to participate in things with him that I wasn't comfortable with. They didn't care that he tried to take all his staff to like adult entertainment complexes and do all kinds of things like on business time. Like, didn't care about any of that until I told the CEO, well, he told everybody that your wife's an alcoholic and shared stories about like that embarrassed the CEO, and then the CEO
That
fired
does
him.
not surprise me.
I mean,
at
like,
all.
how classic a business story
Yeah.
is that? Like, I was like, I kept having to come back and be like, okay, well, what about this? And then finally, he was given his walking papers. But it wasn't until the CEO was embarrassed.
Yeah. That's really, that's sad, but it's like such a common thing. I mean, the first time, and you can keep this in, I don't care. The first time I ever saw any sort of video pornography, I was 23 or 22, and I was working for a company, and my boss showed it to me.
Yeah.
And it was so weird. And I'm like, he's like, hey, come here, look at this. I'm like, this is really weird. This is not okay. Nothing about this is okay. But I was so taken aback, being like, I don't know how you think this is okay. I definitely don't. I'm going to go back to my little office. But it was
and like,
just,
how do you process
it's
that
like,
out?
how do you, yeah, it's just, I mean,
But that,
it was
these kinds of things that we're talking
happens all
about,
the time.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know. There's very few women that I don't know who haven't had a male supervisor do those things.
The people that in my experience, and I'm sure there are people that had never had anything happen to them, and God bless them. I think they're very lucky. But the people that I think are very aggressive about saying that they're not treated any differently because they're a woman, when you peel back the layers a little bit and you ask them questions, it is very clear they have the same stories as all of us. And it's really interesting to me to see that almost as a defense mechanism come out with some people. And that's something I experienced. And I was working for the Department of Defense the first time around. Like, most people were like, yeah, it's happened to me. And I had a couple of women like, that's never happened to me. I'm an officer in the Army and I've never been treated that way. And then you talk to them a little bit more, and they revealed stories of sexual assault when they were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about having a boss when they were in college. And I'm like, no, but you did.
Right.
So it's just, they don't want to admit that because they feel like it makes them look weak in some way, but it's not. It makes you human.
But you know what I would say is, instead of having these rules, if you will, that you can't do this or you can't do that, which seem, I don't know, a little outlandish to me. I just think you need more training. I think a lot of men end up, and I'm not making excuses for them, but I just think a lot of men end up in managerial positions and they've never been told
Oh, absolutely.
what the boundaries
Listen,
are.
I
And again,
100%
common
agree with you.
sense should tell you not to show
But
somebody.
common sense is
porn.
learned. Common sense is
But-
learned behavior. It's a cultural behavior. I mean, when I worked for DoD the first time, because I was young and I was a college professor, they were like, "Hey, you speak millennial, go out and recruit some people. So I had 170 billets that we had to fill, and I think 70 of those were pay band, what we call pay bands, pay band 2, which was entry level young professional. And I had to recruit all these kids from different schools. So I went all over the country. I did a little road show, and they all onboarded at the same time. And it was like the Wild West, because you had these old managers who were like in their 60s and 70s, and all these 20-somethings coming out of college, and they didn't know how to manage them. So then I had to make a training like, hey, listen, this is what you say to them, this is what you can say, this is what you probably shouldn't say. And it was a learning experience for them, and I felt terrible for them, because they had it was like a sea of young people in an organization that had never been able to have that before. So I mean, I definitely get it. There's training that needs to happen, there's a cultural shift that needs to happen, but to deny that happens in general, and to deny that any of these stories are valid because you don't want to appear weak, I think is probably the weakest thing that you can do. And it made me lose so much respect for that person. I was pretty close to that person at the time, and I think that she listens to the podcast, so I feel bad even talking about it. But I mean, yeah, you were sexually assaulted, you were harassed, you had all these issues, you were not given a GS-15 job, and all the other applicants were men, and you're the only person that didn't get it. And yet she still says that, she's always been treated equally her whole life. And it just kind of bothers me. It does, because I feel like it devalues all of the experiences that we've had. And I'm like, yeah, way to stand in solidarity. Thanks.
But I wonder if that's like repressing,
and
bad
it is, and that's why
memories,
I'm so careful, because I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, it's just kind of crappy, because like the rest of us are like, okay, so does that mean that just because we've had experiences and we're sharing them, that makes us any less of a leader, of a person, or any like less capable?
No, as an
growing?
As an African American, I've gone through the same things where I've heard African Americans deny the existence of racism, or deny ever being a victim of racism. And it's, I totally get where you're coming from.
Like, I don't want to deny someone their own personal experiences, but at the same time, it's like, don't fudge on yours to devalue mine, I don't know. So yeah, I get it.
I think it's about time to wrap up. Chris, do you have a Florida man story for us?
I do, and it is from CBS News, and it is one that I'm very proud of.
That's always a good start.
That's
it's
amazing.
from July 14th, 2017, and the reason why I'm proud of it is not because of the subject, it is because of the location, because it is a Florida man story from Clearwater, Florida. And the headline is Florida man arrested for calling 911 nearly 100 times in one day. And this gentleman from Clearwater, Florida, called 911 100 times in one day because he was upset because he had money that was seized during a drug arrest. And he wanted to get that money back. He was unsuccessful. And not only did he not get his money back, he was also arrested for calling 911 100 times.
There's a lesson for all of us in that story.
Well, and my favorite part was one of the times that he called 911 was while the cops were at his house responding to one of the previous 911 calls.
All right. Any shout outs that we want to give this week?
I have a shout out.
Yeah.
To all of our wonderful teachers, principals, and parents and students who did wonderful on their school grades that just were released, particularly in Pinellas County. And statewide, we had 54 school districts that received either an A or a B for their entire school district, which is amazing. 54 out of our 67 school districts received an A or a B. No districts scored a F. Statewide, we only had I believe like 15 or 16 schools that received an F. In Pinellas County, we only had one school that received an F. And just to give listeners an idea of how great that is, it was just a few years ago that we had like 8 schools in Pinellas that received an F.
And Chris, those trends will continue if you guys continue to do a better job of funding public schools.
And keep our wonderful programs that we've started in Tallahassee and our funding that we have.
There's more work to be done.
I'm going to give you a pass and just let that ride for now. Because
That's remarkable. You are in an incredibly good mood tonight.
that is
That was
dishonorable.
pile on time, man.
That's dishonorable mention after dark. Yes, Carla
PJ
and I did
edition.
wear our pajamas for this recording. We are very profesh.
Do you say profesh?
Yeah.
And I'm the stuff that white people like person? No.
Yeah,
Nobody says profesh.
that was very
Like,
much an uppity
hashtag
word.
stuff white people like.
I don't care.
Okay.
I accept.
That was a privileged word.
Oh, Chris, I'll give you
That's
$100
hilarious.
if you can spell privileged correctly right now.
Ooh. Do it.
Hey,
Wait.
Carry on.
I'm not very good at spell. Like I can write it down.
No.
Okay, would you like a piece of paper?
No, don't get a piece of paper.
give
That
me a
wasn't the
piece of paper and a
rules.
pencil.
Don't make it easy for him.
He's
What's wrong
gonna
with you?
Get it wrong. Go to this whiteboard.
Go to the whiteboard and spell
Is
privilege.
there a marker?
Why
And
don't you
only-
write it on your phone, sir?
No, because
Oh no, because then
autocorrect.
it'll spell
Stop it.
check. No, never mind. Never mind.
No.
Okay. Somebody get him a
What the
writing
hell is wrong
device.
with you?
If you're going to use a word, I want to make sure.
I
You
No,
don't-
want
because
you
I
to
know
make
which
sure-
letter you're gonna. Because after the V is another I, and that's the one that you're gonna think I'm gonna misspell
really-
and do an E.
I really
and it's
don't
really
think
an
we should
I.
talk about this and give any information to him that would be detrimental to your bet.
I love Vito's commitment to this. It is why he is forever my favorite.
And I'm not gonna take your $100, even though I'm gonna get it right.
Okay.
Why?
I
Okay.
just like being correct.
Okay.
And like usual, Chris is gonna be right and Becca's
You
gonna
only
be wrong.
you can't scratch out any letters.
Okay, just go ahead.
I can.
I had to make sure the word wasn't on that note.
Why?
Okay.
Just so
Do, 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 do,
how
do.
millennial are you? So-
Okay.
How
Can
do
you
you
I got it
spell
right on
it?
the first
How do you
time.
How do you spell it?
PRIVILEGE.
Privileged.
Privilege.
Duh. Duh. You forgot the D at the end.
With a D at the end.
It doesn't matter. So
I spelled it right.
you did not. You spelled privilege, not privileged. They're two different words.
Oh, bull crap.
Really? Go grab a dictionary. Dictionary is spelled D-I-C. So I guess I will still pile it on. Anyways,
No, I spelled it right.
you didn't spell
I thought
privileged.
you were going to get a couple of the
No,
letters mixed
I
up.
spelled it correct.
You did
spelled
spell it correct.
the incorrect word correctly.
I spelled it correct. Can I get a for like the 100th time of our friendship? Can I get a Chris? You were right.
You can spell the word privilege, but apparently not privileged. And there's a difference. And we're going to let Ernest take you to an event at the Pointer Institute to talk about.
I think we should have a drinking
tense.
game where we like give Chris words and we bet on how many he can spell correctly. And I say this as a very poor speller. But
that would be
I
magical. That would
have-
be magical.
I
We could raise money
volunteer.
for charity.
I volunteer.
Or we could have a dishonorable mention trivia night, and I can school y'all.
Oh,
too.
I will kick all y'all asses. Are you
I
kidding?
know
I'm on two
Ernest.
trivia
I
teams.
know Ernest will win, but I could come in second place.
I am on 2 trivia teams and we do very well.
All right, I could beat Becca.
Okay. I will challenge you. There is no challenge.
Becca,
you
you
can't
can be on my
put
team.
You didn't know how many members were in the Florida House of Representatives until I told you.
down. Please. As if I didn't take civics. So are you saying that my high school was inferior in some manner?
Your high school got a C in the grades that just came out, in which everybody did well except for one high school.
I don't think that's a reflection of her education.
Although I think my high school also went down. So.
Well, it's because they don't have
Oh,
their-
speaking of which, the Tennessee governor.
I saw that.
I almost sent y'all a text
I
saw
almost
it.
sent you the
I
text
saw
too.
about Nedford.
Yes.
Nathan Bedford.
Nathan
Yes.
Bedford Forrest. But the
He is
Tennessee
an
governor signed
interesting individual.
a piece of legislation recognizing Nathan Bedford Forrest Day in the state of Tennessee. But he said he signed it because he was required by law, by Tennessee law, to sign it. I don't.
Whatever.
Sounds like an excuse.
I
to
have
me.
to give 2 shout outs this week. One, because Chris and I talked about this before and I said I would. One of my sorority sisters is participating in something. Ashley, she's in Pensacola. And she's a teacher there. And there's this thing that some teachers are doing that I think is really wonderful, and I was really happy to support her. And so if any of our listeners would like to support one of these teachers, I'm happy to connect them. But what they're doing is they're taking their classroom, let's say they have 22 kids or whatever, and you pick a number and say, I picked the numbers 4 and 12 from Ashley because 4 is my lucky number and 12 is my wedding anniversary, which was a couple days ago. Happy anniversary, Chip. I almost said Trip. That's his
Happy
role playing name.
anniversary.
Anyways,
Happy anniversary, baby.
16 years. My brother calls me and he goes, happy 16th wedding anniversary. Only one more year till permanent alimony. I was like, that's my brother, baby. Anyways, so I picked those two numbers, and what they're doing, these wonderful teachers are asking so their kids feel lifted up and supported. You pick a number and then you get assigned a kid and you give them $10, and they've got all these Scholastic books that they found that they can buy for $1 each. So each kid will get a new book each month from their, supporter. And your job is to also pray for the kid for the whole year and wish them well and send good energy, love, and light to these children. So I have 2 kids in Pensacola, and she just told me another one of our sorority sisters in Orlando is having trouble getting supporters. So I give shout outs for that, because while I don't believe our government should fund there should be a separation of church and state from a governing standpoint, I am a person of faith, and the idea of being able to support 2 kids or more makes me really happy, and it was a check I was happy to write. The second thing that I need to give a shout out to is my son Liam is away at camp, and I have made it 1 week with him at sleepaway camp and have not driven back to Georgia and taken him out and scooped him up and run away into the night with him. So I feel very proud of myself for that. So yay for the children that I'm adopting. I'd probably adopt any child at this point because I miss Liam so much. And happy anniversary to Chip.
Oh, we're looking at me now?
Yeah, your turn. Shout out.
Let's see, do I have any shout outs? I think everybody who wished me happy birthday, I will give them a shout out.
Debbie Gibson.
I love you, Debbie. I love you, Tiffany, but they did not wish me happy birthday. So I'm going to give a shout out to everyone that wished me happy birthday, because everyone that did that was so kind, including you all, and I really, really appreciate it.
Chris, shout out.
He already
I already
did.
did one shout.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
I'll do another shout out.
no, you did do a shout out.
But wait,
I'll wrap it
Should
up.
we shout out to Betty and Ray again? Because our parents are so wonderful.
Oh yeah, I had my mother had a birthday this week, Betty.
Oh, Betty. She's
We
so great.
love Betty. She
do.
is delightful.
We love Ray Ray and Betty.
So, great people were clearly born this week.
Happy birthday to Betty.
Cancers are nice people, I'm telling you.
I want to give a shout out to all the people.
Doneen.
Not Deneen.
To Hot Tub Harry.
We almost made it through a podcast without mentioning her.
No, Chris already said it a couple times.
What a
slowly.
disappointment.
That is one word none of us know how to spell, by the way.
I want to give a shout out to all the people who came out for the rally, Light for Liberty Tampa rally on Friday night. It was raining. A lot of people came out. It's an issue that is very upsetting to me. I've written about it in my column for 2 consecutive weeks, something I rarely do, but I had someone write and say that the only reason the president is being criticized is because he's old, white, and male. And that assertion just set me off like few things can. In fact, I woke up at 4 in the morning to write that column, and I hope to get back to something fun and lighthearted next week. But as long as we're mishandling this crisis at the border, it's going to upset me because I know America can do better. I know, I know as a nation we can do better, and I don't think the policies are being put in place to allow this nation to do better. And I'm not for open borders or letting criminals in or inviting terrorists or any of those things. I just know we could do a better job of handling this situation.
Agreed.
And remember who we are. I have spent the last few days, because I've been so emotionally drained by some of the minutia within the inner fighting of both parties and some of the actual and with some Democrats as well, is in addition to just these horrific things that feel like they keep coming at us. I've literally started watching The West Wing again just to feel a little hopeful. And so
Is that why you've been calling me like every day? Because you want to feel hopeful. I
that,
give you hope.
that's
I
it.
watch Hallmark movies when I want to be hopeful.
Yeah. for
No,
real.
let Bartlett be Bartlett. My dad doesn't know it yet, so hopefully before he hears this, I've ordered him a ton of West Wing stuff for his birthday because, he is Leo. He would tell you he's Bartlett.
I'm telling y'all, if the Democrats nominate the most liberal candidate, they're gonna be up the creek.
Might be true. I don't know.
I think you might be right about that.
There's a lot of time before. I feel like we're being like really armchair on this, and I feel like it's hard. It's hard not to be because of like the nature we have a podcast.
And this
Right.
is coming
But-
from a Republican that didn't understand the Trump dynamic
I mean,
last go around, and I didn't understand how Trump won
But no,
Florida.
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying things can be very volatile and change
No,
very quickly. So
16 months is
Yeah, so it's
eternity
I will
in
tell
the
you
political world.
that I think Hooper might be a prophet or a member of Miss Cleo's psychic predictions, because I'm hearing from people who tend to be really right on with these things that they think the governor of Montana is going to pull an Obama, and there's going to be that he's going to come out of nowhere. So
Really?
I'm
The
hearing
guy
it.
that didn't make the debate?
I'm just saying.
Hmm.
Remember, Ernest Hooper said it first. Keep an eye on that guy.
All right. I like ending on that note. That's another Dishonorable Mention podcast. My
After
friends, Dishonorable Mention After Dark. Know that I love you. I always look forward to spending time with you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.